wonderful friends, it's me, Andrea Gomoll from Creative Creations, and today I decided it's about time to talk about watercolor books, watercolor sketchbooks, because that's one of the most asked questions. Yeah, whenever I get a message, it's most of the time about the watercolor sketchbooks that I'm working in, that I'm using, and that I would recommend, because quite obviously it seems to be a little difficult to find the perfect watercolor sketchbooks. I mean, there are many sketchbooks out there, notebooks, but it always depends on the paper. And I can remember in the beginning I was quite frustrated with many of the sketchbooks of the art journals that I bought, because I wasn't happy with the paper, or I wasn't happy with the binding. Yeah, over the years I kind of found a couple of books, a couple of companies that kind of give me what I need and that I'm really happy with, and that I get back to again and again now. And I thought I would just share them with you, so that maybe you can find the one or the other company in your country, in your neck of the woods, and yeah, skip that that frustrating part of buying watercolor book after watercolor book and being like not happy with it in one way or another. I will not talk a lot about each of them, because then this video would be like super long. I just kind of want to keep it more or less short. So I will just show you my favorite brands, my favorite watercolor books, watercolor art journals, watercolor sketchbooks, whatever you want to call it, because usually for me it starts out as a watercolor sketchbook or watercolor book, but sometimes it turns into an art journal. I go in with mixed media, with embellishments, with acrylic paints, with collage. So usually for me they never stay just like a plain watercolor sketchbook. So I think we will jump right in. Let's get started in no particular order. So this is not like a top 10 or something. It is just the books and the brands that I totally enjoy and that I would recommend, okay? So the first one that I have here is one of the Jane Davenport art journals. I just kind of pimped it and decorated the outside, the cover, and it has really nice sturdy paper to work in. It is just a teeny tiny bit textured, but more or less very smooth. The binding is pretty good. Sometimes it cracks open just a little bit in the center, but that's totally fine. It's not like falling apart, totally not. So really beautiful, and I use it a lot for mixed media. So I also go in with layering and dimensional embellishments with acrylic paints. I play in it with watercolors. So it is actually pretty good for many different things. It's not just solely like a watercolor sketchbook. However, it also takes watercolor very well. I'm sorry for the bad line. I would not say it is a watercolor book, but definitely you can do a lot of watercolor work in here. Pretty good, especially if you want to do like other types of media as well. So Jane Davenport art journal, they are very good. Then let's see the next thing. I have this Arteza watercolor sketchbook, which I really like. I kind of like the paper is pretty good. I really like the paper. You can work with it, and it's a little textured on one side and smooth on the other side. What I don't like about this one, so you might want to keep that in mind, is that after you use it a lot, and if the water goes into the binding, into the spine, it, like, I'm not sure if you can see that, it kind of cracks open here in the center. which isn't so nice because it has this like glue binding here in the center. And yeah, for me that shouldn't happen. So it's like a love-hate relationship with that, or with the Arteza art journals. It is, again, like, I really love the paper. It is beautiful, but it's kind of frustrating if the binding doesn't hold up. So this one would go on my so-so list. So it's a good price. It's pretty inexpensive. So maybe for beginners, that's okay, or just for like playing and testing things out. But if you want to create a keepsake, something that you keep for years and refer back to and flip through the pages again and again, it's kind of frustrating if the binding doesn't hold up. So that is that. Next one, and those are actually, or those have been for a very long time and still are, my favorite watercolor sketchbooks, watercolor travel journals. Those are the Arches paper travel books. Come in different variations, like the top and the bottom one, and they're pretty hard to find actually. I could find them on Amazon in Germany and here in a local art shop, but if you search the internets, you should definitely find them, and you can get them in different variations, like the cold pressed and the hot pressed paper. I prefer the cold pressed paper because I really love the texture of the Arches paper, and I have several of them. I do some of my whimsical work in those, but I also use them for traveling as my travel sketchbooks. So I have several of those, and I really love the size. It's pretty decent, pretty good size to work on the go, as well as to create enough detail on it if you work on it with portraits and other things. And again, the paper, Arches paper, I don't think I need to say something about Arches paper because it is just stunning. It has a stunning, like, soft, almost fabric-like finish. So the Arches travel books definitely are at the very top of my list, right? So I really truly love them a lot. They're just so beautiful, and I love the ring binding. Gives you the option to really like flip the pages around and work nice and flat. That's of course another thing that I love. And one which is very similar, this is by Hahnemühlen. It is quite similar to the Arches travel notebook, also with this ring binding. The paper is a little more smooth in here, yet it is a lovely, sturdy, really thick paper to work on. So really lovely, and you can work front, back, both sides work equally well. So Hahnemühlen is another really lovely brand for watercolor books, watercolor sketchbooks. Of course, the Hahnemühlen and Arches, they are a little more on the expensive side compared to like Arteza, for example. So it really depends on what you want, but I would never sacrifice the paper quality, because the paper quality is just so important. You can have like the best skills and the best colors and the best brushes. If the paper sucks, all of this doesn't help. So the paper is really key. So the next one that I love and would recommend is the Moleskine watercolor sketchbook. Just make sure that you always check if it's a watercolor sketchbook, because many brands like Moleskine, for example, they have like normal sketchbooks with very thin sketching paper in it. So you definitely want to make sure that you purchase or order the watercolor sketchbooks, okay? And yeah, they come in many different sizes, and I also have them and use them in different sizes. This small one is great, again, for on the go, for traveling, just for smaller sketches. It has a slightly textured paper again. I'm so sorry for the bad light. Slightly textured paper, pretty sturdy, not as sturdy as the Arches and Hahnemühlen, but pretty sturdy. And the binding, of course, it is Moleskine. It holds up very well. So Moleskine is just a very high quality brand, you know that, I guess. So yeah, I'm also working in those with a lot of mixed media. As you can see, like some metal charms and some texture paste here. So it's not only, again, not only for watercolor, like this larger one. I'm kind of using like an Artjournal as well to do lots of mixed media in. Even though it is a watercolor book, so it really depends. I kind of like to mix things up. Yeah, so Moleskine, definitely a wonderful brand for watercolor notebooks and watercolor sketchbooks. Then you maybe want to check like local brands or brands in your country, because there's some more or less unknown or not so widely known companies that produce very good good quality watercolor books and watercolor like sketchbooks and notebooks. Like here in Germany, for example, I really love the watercolor books by Kunst und Papier. So I really use this a lot for art journaling, for watercolor work. So and this is actually pretty a pretty good price. It is not very expensive. But again, I think it's only available in Germany. And also do watercolor work in here, mixed media work, paintings, drawings, just testing things out, art journaling. And the paper is a little more thin, yet really good enough. It's not like bleeding through. It is beautiful, holds up beautiful. And the binding is great, the binding is perfect. So that's, for example, if you are in Germany, a brand to really look into, because yeah, I totally enjoy those books. And you can, you know, like they are really thick, come with lots of pages in it. So you're kind of not like scared or afraid to use the pages, because let's face it, at least for me, with my Arches books, they have just very few pages and they're more expensive. I'm a little more hesitant to use those, and I think a little bit more if I really want to go onto that paper, if I really want to work in that book. Compared to this book, I really just go in and experiment and play and have fun. So yeah, it doesn't always have to be like the super expensive, super duper fancy paper, especially just for playtime. Sometimes the books and the brands that are a little cheaper make it a lot easier, and they just take off a little bit of pressure off your shoulders to that need to create a work of art, because in here you don't need to create a work of art. It's just playtime, just having fun, just nurturing your creativity, expressing yourself. So Kunst und Papier, a great brand. As well as lately I discovered those watercolor sketchbooks by Boesner, which again is a German brand, a huge German shop company with German-wide shops. So Boesner, they have their own line of art supplies, and they also have pretty wonderful watercolor books. Again, very good price actually. Again, like really sturdy pages, nice binding, and yeah, the paper works really well. I just love to work on the paper. It is pretty smooth, like not satin finish, but rather on the smooth side. Yeah, and you can really work very, very detailed on that paper because it is so smooth, and it just takes the watercolor really, really wonderful, beautiful for blending. So yeah, really love that paper and that book. So if you are in Germany or maybe Austria, Switzerland, I think it is available as well, I'm not sure, then check out Boesner. They really have those super, super, super beautiful and wonderful watercolor sketchbooks, which are great and a great price. And they don't only come in that larger size. I just kind of needed a larger book for a little bit more detailed work and more room to play and express. But they come in different sizes, like really tiny and larger and wide. And so definitely check it out. They also have a website, online shop, where you can check. Or if you're living close to a larger city, you can also check out their shop. You probably have already. So let's move on. Actually, there's just one last brand that I fell in love with quite recently. I discovered the brand, I think, a couple of months ago, and ordered a couple of different variations of their sketchbooks or of their books, of their journals. And the brand is Caddy Paper, which is a brand from India. And I have several of their books. They have like hard bound books like this one. And I kind of really love that size. They also have like pretty like unusual sizes, like this wide format, which I kind of really like. It is just something completely different, but sometimes it is just really fun to play on a different shape, on a different size, or different measurements of the paper. And they have those smaller, thinner booklets like this one, and then they have those larger, thicker, like almost book blocks. They're actually the blocks. You can see the binding here. So they're like hand-bound blocks, just without the cover around, like here. Okay, so it really depends. But to be honest, I really love those blocks without any cover, because you can feel the paper right away. I don't know. I'm a tactile person, and I really love it. And again, I have different sizes, like those small size for on the go, and have this larger one for working in at home. And the paper, first of all, they have like a smooth and a rough version. Just know that the rough version of the paper is very rough. And the smooth version is actually still pretty rough. So if you think of smooth paper, it is not like the hot pressed paper that you might be used to. It is not like super smooth. It is still pretty textured because it is a handmade paper. It kind of really has this texture here from the grid. What is it called? I'm missing the word, where it's like dried, where the sheets are dried on, or like taken out of the pulp. So you really have that texture. And this one actually is the smooth one, and you can still see a little bit of that texture, yet it is a little smoother than like the rough variation of the paper, because the rough one is like really rough, and it is handmade, so you definitely need to keep that in mind. It is handmade paper. Each and every page can vary, can be slightly different. Some are a little more textured, some are a little less textured. They have tiny like bumps in the paper. So it is handmade. So it is unique, let's put it that way, okay? What I totally love, of course, are the deckled edges. It just gives you that beautiful handmade feeling. I just love it. Look at that, how pretty that looks. And I'm a person, even years ago, I used to use like those distressing tools to kind of slide it along the edges of the paper to rough it up. Rough it up, is that a word? To distress the edges of my scrapbook layouts or something, because I just love that look. So I'm all for deckled edges, for those handmade edges, yeah. Natural edges. Yeah, so I really love the paper, and it's like 100% cotton, and for 100% cotton it's a pretty good price actually. And I already use it for travel sketching. Like I took this one to Ireland with me, for example, and as you can see probably, the paints, the watercolors, they stay pretty vibrant on the pages, and you can nicely blend it. It gives you a really beautiful textured effect. So I totally love the Arteza paper. It is different, no doubt about it. It is different to like normal watercolor paper that we might be used to. But it really depends on what you want to use it for. Like for nature, for example, you can see like the texture of the paper already gives you a lot of texture if you do a little bit of dry brushing. So you can really use the texture of the paper to kind of integrate it into your pieces, into your work, okay? What it's not so good for, if you like to work, that's one thing that I discovered the hard way. Not the hard way. If you want to work with masking fluid, and masking fluid and this paper doesn't go very well together, because the paper is like so smooth and not smooth, so natural finished. So you still have all those fibers, okay? And if you add the masking fluid and then peel it back off, it kind of just rips a very thin layer of the paper back off, okay? So masking fluid doesn't work very well on it. And also erasing, if you're working with pencil and then do lots of erasing, it is a little difficult on that paper as well. Just know that beforehand. But other than that, I love it. So definitely give it a try. I really love I say love a lot, but talking about my favorite sketchbooks, it's quite obvious that I say love a lot. I just love the paper. Almost feels like fabric. It really has this cotton fabric feel to it, and it just gives you a really beautiful textured soft finish. Even if you like flip the pages, it doesn't feel like paper. It almost feels like a fabric. Yeah, actually like a fabric. So you can see it is very how do you say, I'm missing another word. What's wrong with me? So you can't like tear it easily. Don't need to be like careful with the paper, with the pages. As you can see, with normal paper you might be afraid to like rip it or wrinkle it, but this is like very forgiving. And again, I just love that feeling. That feeling. Yeah, again, I can only say it kind of almost feels like fabric, and I really love that. You maybe see a little bit of the texture. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's just lately I really love to work on that paper. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that you have seen me working on that paper a lot lately, just because it is just so special. I don't know, it is just special and different. So if you like to experiment with different types of paper, I would definitely suggest to give the Caddy paper a go. Give it a try. Just maybe order 1 or 2 to do a little test run and see how you like it. Because if you like a little bit unconventional type of paper, I'm pretty sure that you will love it. As you can see, it is like super what's the word? I have to look it up. You don't need to be careful with it. You can bend it, and I just like put it in my bag, take it with me, because of the stitched binding and the way the paper is and the way the paper feels. It is like very forgiving. So the Caddy paper, definitely really love it, and I would suggest to just give it a try, test it out. And again, the colors, they stay like super vibrant on here, and they blend wonderfully. So yeah, check it out. And yeah, that's actually it. The last thing that I love to do is just making my own watercolor sketchbooks. If you can't find one, if you can't find the right one, if you can't find the right one with the right paper or the right amount of pages, I have my traveler's notebooks, like the store-bought or like this handmade one. And I just like to create my own. So just grabbing sheets of watercolor paper, of my favorite watercolor paper, and then I'm just like cutting it to the size that I need and just like flipping the pages or like putting them inside of each other, and you can stitch them together in the center, for example. I really like to do this once I have the book finished, or once I know that the book is finished for me, like this travel journal, Ireland's travel journal. I didn't knew ahead of time how many pages I would need, so I just kind of took the pages inside of each other and then just kind of slipped it into my traveler's notebook here. There you go. And this way I could just like remove the pages or add pages or rearrange the pages and take the pages out if I want to create on them. And then in the end, once you're finished, you can just bind it with some stitching or just with a stapler in the center. Depends on the aesthetics that you're going for. So that's another option, of course. If you can't find your perfect watercolor sketchbook, just make it. Just make it. Okay, guys, so I think that was it. I can't talk a lot and I skipped around a lot between the different. However, I hope this was a little helpful for some of you. So now you know which watercolor notebooks, which watercolor journals I love to use, I prefer to work in. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'm happy to answer them. If you have other suggestions, maybe you have another brand or another favorite watercolor sketchbook or watercolor journal, then please enlighten me, enlighten us. Also put it in the comments, maybe I can check it out, because even though I'm pretty happy with the brands that I'm working with right now, it doesn't mean that I can't or don't want to discover new favorites, right? Yeah, so I guess that was it. I hope it was a little helpful for you guys. Again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Please do so. Click the subscribe button and hit that little bell so to make sure that you don't miss any future videos. Yeah, and follow me on Instagram if you don't do so yet. That's where I share my art and my artsy journey on a daily basis, and where I like to connect yeah, on a daily basis with stories and just sharing some behind the scenes. So if you're interested in that, hop on over and make sure you follow me on Instagram, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Wishing you a wonderful day and talk to you all again soon. Bye.